This is Talking Hardcore, the podcast for people who love hardcore history.
You study history because it allows us to understand the present and prepare for the future.
Yeah, it's like Shakespeare or Greek tragedy.
Could you imagine what was in the Library of Alexandria?
I bet it was porn.
I'm not even wearing pants right now, Scott.
What's the old Clint Eastwood line? A man's got to know his limitations. I know my limitations.
The Talking Hardcore podcast is presented by Ace Industrial Solutions. Are you in need of skilled trade professionals for your next project? Look no further.
Hi, everybody. This is Talking Hardcore. I'm George.
I'm Scott.
And we got Matt Bellah, author and frequent contributor to the podcast, joining us today. Matt reached out with the idea to do... sorry, thanks, Matt.
Hello.
Matt reached out with an idea to do a emergency episode after everything that happened yesterday. Today we're recording this is at 7/14/2024. Yesterday, around 6 o'clock, which is 7/13/2024, somebody tried to assassinate the former president of the United States, Donald Trump. And being as how we're mostly a history podcast, it seemed appropriate to try to add some historical context to what is happening here and just basically talk through what happened and the possible consequences and, I mean, frankly, some what ifs. So, Matt, you want to jump us off?
Sure. So, as you said, about 6 o'clock yesterday, former President Trump was speaking at a rally in rural Pennsylvania. He got about 10 minutes. About 5 to 7 minutes into his speech, a bystander standing outside the security perimeter that had been established by the Secret Service, according to his account, witnessed an individual carrying a rifle, bear walking, in his words, across the roof of a nearby warehouse. He pointed this out to law enforcement and the Secret Service who were standing nearby. Shots rang out, and then according to this individual, a couple minutes went by. So that squares up that 10 minutes into the speech is when this happened. A couple minutes after that, several shots. I counted 7 in the video. Some of those might have been echoes, but then Secret Service snipers on the roof of a nearby building took this guy down. So this individual has been identified as Thomas Matthew Crooks, 20 years old, of Bethel, Pennsylvania, which is, according to reports, a blue-collar community about an hour's drive south of Butler, which is where this happened. And he was 20 years old. He when he was 17, he had donated $15 to Act Blue, which is a progressive liberal organization. Kind of looked into it a little bit. But then 8 months after that, he registered as a Republican. His dad was a Republican. His mom was a Democrat. He apparently was kicked out of his school shooting club for not being good enough of a shot.
I did not hear that.
Instructor there was a former Navy guy, and he said the guy was just acting weird. Yeah, and it just came out. And the instructor there was a former Navy guy, and he said you can tell when people just are bad. You know what I mean? He said he didn't say anything, he said he did say some things that were inappropriate to use in a firearm setting, especially in a school. And that he was just a bad shot. I guess the range is about 50 yards wide, I think, or 50 yards long. And that there was like 20 ranges. And he was on the far right side of it, and he shot and missed the target on the left-hand side of the range. Like, didn't even hit any target. Like, shot all the way across there. And they were like, dude, you can't shoot. You're acting weird. Please leave, basically was the situation. So that's the guy who did this. And now it just came out as well that he climbed up on the roof. So he was acting strange around the magnetometers.
Around what?
So the cops are kind of checking him out. And then he went and climbed up a ladder.
Security.
The magnetometers, the metal detectors. And, security arches. Yeah. So he was acting strangely around security at the metal detectors, and then he climbed up a ladder to this building, and they saw him, and a police officer followed him, but presumably had both hands on the rungs and just popped his head up for a minute or something. I'm just guessing there. Dude turns, points the rifle at him. Cop pops down. Homie spins back. Pop. That's the one that got Trump in the ear. And then pop.
I'm not sure it was the first one that got him in the ear.
There's absolutely no.
I'm not sure it was the first one that got him in the ear. Was it?
It's the first one I heard.
Yeah, I mean,
it's the first shot.
I haven't watched the video that many times, but okay, yeah, go ahead, keep going.
Yeah. So not a large social media presence on this dude. It's very unclear as to the motive. He didn't leave a manifesto. There's they found some suspicious materials in his car that may have been bomb making. I've heard it say that bomb squad dismissed it, but then also it was bomb making materials. Nothing from his apartment yet. He didn't have a large online presence. He was very much seemingly a quiet lone wolf. Motivation is not apparent at this time, and it may never be. His parents are kind of freaked out about this and waiting to see.
I mean, imagine what they're going through.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, 100%. I mean, your son tries to assassinate a former president, current.
And kills one other person there,
and wounds another,
and wounds two others.
Two others, yeah.
That's the other thing to bury the lead.
Two
in this.
Yeah, critically wounds two others, and then the guy who got killed was a fire chief, and he dived over his family and protected them.
It's terrible stuff. So the last time something like
so it's a sad story all around. It's very tragic.
Yeah, definitely. And the last time something like this happened, I was only 6.
Yeah, it was Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, I don't remember that, right? And so this feels like something kind of interesting. It feels something like something new, but also it feels like something ancient.
For sure.
Assassination is nothing actually new. It's not even that new in American politics.
I just finished reading I just finished reading The Last Assassin, which is a book about the hunt for the assassins of Julius Caesar. I just finished reading
and
that,
we talked on the Discord, which is Hardcore History Discussions Discord channel, and that Matt started, and the rest is history. Is in the middle of a series about the First World War, the lead up and the start of the First World War, and Gabriel Princip, who shot the Archduke Franz Ferdinand, was 19 years old. Okay, he was the people behind him were much older.
Yeah,
but there was this organization that were basically kind of Talibaning things to put him up and these other young people into it, putting them up into getting them to want to shoot this guy, basically, or their plan was to try to blow him up first, and then that failed. So it's just.
Maybe this is a good time to jump into the what ifs.
Well,
shit.
Since you bring up Franz Ferdinand, for sure.
What if Trump died yesterday? What do you think would have happened?
That could span all kinds of things.
Well,
I don't think many things good.
Well, first, the Republican Party would have to scramble to find a replacement candidate. That'd be number one. Number two, I think a lot of people that support Donald Trump would be very upset, to say it lightly, right?
At least,
that's where I was going with
it.
At
least 40% of the population would think that the government did it.
Probably,
and who the hell knows?
Well,
who the hell knows?
In this case, now let me put it this. So in this case, I don't think the government did it.
I don't either.
Because typically, my first reaction would be if nobody else was injured, and it was just an attempt on Trump, I would say that it's a possibility. Because of the trajectory and where the bullets look like they were coming from the left or Trump's right, and according to where the video was. So if nobody was behind Trump,
sure,
to the right hand side, well, to Trump's left, our right, then it could have been.
I think in this situation, if it were to be that it was a conspiracy, it would be that they manipulated this kid to get him to do it.
Sure.
Right. Not that it was some secret government actors doing it.
You never know.
No, I know, but in this situation, it's pretty clear that that's not the case because this was so shittily done.
Yeah.
And not only that, like the Secret Service. Did you see that it wasn't even his regular Secret Service people there?
Yeah.
They were working round the clock and they were understaffed because Biden kept refusing to up his Secret Service budget. So his Secret Service guys were understaffed. So this was their first day off. I've seen a lot of sources saying that they know that Trump has requested, his campaign has requested an increased budget for their Secret Service. And I know
I don't want to put that directly in the hands of Biden, but I think I have heard that there was requests and he was short.
They still haven't granted Secret Service to Robert Kennedy Jr. And he's on the ballot in most states now, and they have not granted him Secret Service. And there's been credible threats to his.
And let's just be very clear: a guy just walked up to a building 150 yards away from the former president of the United States and shot him. Like that happened. That was not great security, and that speaks to a lot of different
so
things.
Here's the question, right? If this was successful, right now, this is what we were doing. What ifs? No MAGA guy is going to think that this guy acted alone, or at least they're going to blame all of the rhetoric coming out of the left.
Probably.
And I mean, fuck these politicians on both sides.
It already is, and it already is. It's exactly so. That's something I wanted to bring up as well. So I watched the full video of them clearing the crowd all the way until the stands were empty, and there was reports coming out about this at the time, but it's confirmed by watching it. So there was people there screaming at the media, "This is your fault. You wanted it. Now you're going to get it. You made this happen." And they were angry at the press.
I think that's fair.
What do you guys think about that?
I don't disagree. I mean, even this morning, well, let me just hold on.
Knock yourself out.
Yesterday and this morning, well, first of all, yesterday, none of the mainstream media seemed to be covering that there was an assassination attempt. And even this morning, when I was looking at news sources, assassination attempt was never even written into a headline. It was, they were using like they were sugarcoating it, like shooting at Trump rally.
Yep.
Or incident. Or shots fired.
Yesterday it was Trump falls.
Yeah.
A lot of the mainstream media were saying Trump falls at his rally, and then Secret Service jump on him instead of saying what the video clearly showed to be.
Yeah.
Now I'm never a rush to headlines guy, and some of these news organizations do that way too much. But I mean, it's freaking weird. But Matt, to answer your question, blaming the media. Okay. If you are going to say that Donald Trump is Hitler and that he's ruining our democracy, he's going to be, if he wins, it's over.
It's the last election we'll ever have.
We have to stop him at all costs, which some politicians and media members have said, stop him at any cost. What do you think's going to happen? There's a lot of crazy people out there.
Well, there's one more thing that I find particularly disgusting, is I've seen a lot of just posts on TikTok or Facebook where people will post the meme like, you had one job. And it's
there's a lot of that.
I know there's a lot. And and there's videos, like there's influencers or people that whatever.
Destiny. That Destiny guy on Twitter is going crazy today. Posting how this guy missed and it's ridiculous and he should have been practicing more. And I mean, this guy, that guy is like, he's been on real podcasts and now he's just jumped the shark today and just insane stuff. But the what if is, Matt, like we were saying, MAGA people were not going to, what happens if Trump gets shot and then the Republicans candidate, whoever it is, loses the election? Then nobody buys it.
Yeah.
Nobody buys it on the MAGA side at all. They think the whole thing's rigged. They already think the whole thing's rigged. Well, you want to make it seem really sure the whole thing's rigged? Mm-hmm. You have the candidate who's up by like 20% gets shot and then they lose the election.
Yeah.
if people don't trust elections, we're fucked. And the people who are in a rush to say that Donald Trump's going to kill our democracy seem to be leading us towards
killing our democracy.
Killing the democracy because they don't seem to trust the people to make the decision.
Yeah.
They don't trust the people. They don't trust the system that we have in place of checks and balances.
Well, and this goes back to, like, if you look at it, and I hate to divert, guys, but I have to go into this one at least a little bit, especially the Supreme Court ruling for immunity for presidents, okay, which grants Trump immunity
for official acts. Official acts.
That's
okay.
Crazy.
Official acts.
But my point is, if you're going to go after,
and I'm sorry, it's not. Let's clarify what the decision said. I read it. Okay. The president has immunity for acts that are based in the Constitution.
Okay.
They have a presumption of a clear immunity if he's doing a job that the Constitution says the president needs to do. If it's just a regular official act, then there's a presumption of immunity that can be rebutted. Okay, so it's not even like it's a clear all. Okay, and the people saying that this is going to make Trump a king are really stupid. All right, because violating the Constitution is not an official act.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not going to have immunity. It's really dumb.
Well, then the other thing that gets me, well, all right, and I hate to compare past to present, but look at Clinton and what was it, Paula? I forgot.
Paula Wright.
Paula Wright. I think he paid her what $850,000 in hush money back in the 90s. I mean, but you don't see Clinton going to court for that.
Worse than that, Obama drone struck a U.S. citizen.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, and he should be happy that this Supreme Court decision came down, because if Trump wins, and if that immunity clause wasn't there, and Trump wins this election, what's to stop him from going after Obama the way they've been going after him?
Nothing. And then I think it was an unspoken agreement.
It was, and that's what the ruling says. The decision says that this has been something that is a tradition, that it upholds the ideas of checks and balances.
Or look at Bush,
yeah.
Or whatever, going to war in Iraq for what? But there were no WMDs. Like, once again, you invaded a country, you violated. Anyway, sorry.
It's all sticky, man.
Sorry to jump off and kind of divert the conversation.
No, but that is, now the media keeps saying that if Trump wins, he'll be a king because of this immunity ruling. And I know personally people on Facebook and stuff saying that. Okay, well, you look at the Roman system, the Roman Republic, right? If somebody was trying to be a king, you were obligated to try to kill him.
Yeah.
All right? You were supposed to kill him. Okay? So you keep telling everybody, oh, he's a would-be king. He's a fascist dictator, would-be king / Hitler.
Yeah. What do you think?
This is why people have been saying they're going to try to somebody's going to try to assassinate Trump.
Yeah.
Tucker Carlson said it. Other guys have said it just recently, and the news called them conspiracy theorist extremists. You're like, well, no, you read, but this seems like it's likely, because what you're making it out that if he wins, we're all fucked and the country's fucked. So of course some crazy person's going to act on that.
Sure.
And it's not that hard to kill one dude if you don't mind dying. Right? It's just not as hard as it should. If you don't mind dying, it's not that terribly hard, because you can find mistakes. People slip up, people get tired, they mess up. And if this guy had been a better shot, we'd probably all be really worried right now.
Back to that. Like, do I think, what? I really don't think MAGA people would riot. I think they would protest. I'm not sure about rioting.
If they and then they steal the election, according to MAGA people,
I don't think they would riot.
What else choice do they have?
I don't think they would burn down their hometown.
No, they wouldn't need to. That they would just go take over the buildings of government with guns.
Well, that's a possibility.
They have a lot of guns.
Wait, there's a name for that. It's not rioting. Then it's like basically a civil war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, it is. That's right. That's what it might have been.
It could have been.
It could have been. It could have easily been that.
And how fucked would we all be then?
Yeah. No shit. That's the worry.
Yeah.
That's the
That's how I'm
worry.
seeing it. We're a couple inches away from the Civil War. Yeah, it's pretty great. And just to be clear, I mean, it was the cop who distracted him, right? So it wasn't that if he had been a better shot. I mean, I don't know how much time he had from when he turned around, pointed at the cop, and then just like, okay, so you're this dude, and you have a guy on the ground saying, "Hey, there's a guy with a rifle right there," to the police and the Secret Service. You know you're seen, and there's a cop right behind you that you have momentarily deterred by pointing your rifle at him. And the second you turn around, he's going to pop up and shoot you. That is the time in which you have to make this shot.
Well, if you notice,
and he still grazed his ear. So I mean, it was the police officer
and
who
Trump turned his head.
Well,
if you look at the last minute, no. If you look right as the shot gets fired, he goes like this.
He had,
and so he might. I've seen trajectory breakdowns online, and the way they make it look, and I don't know, is that he had his head turned like this. The bullet comes through, it would have literally blown the back of his head off. He turned like this, so it grazed his ear. Yeah. But if he hadn't turned, it was going to hit right here and go through all of this.
Sure. But he had his head turned from the video. It looked like he had his head turned for like a good 5 seconds before the first shot rang out.
I don't know about that.
Maybe I'm wrong. And I agree with you, Matt. It sounded like it sounded like 3 shots. 3 or 4 shots rang out, then 4 more shots, maybe a couple seconds later, then another shot, which is weird, just a random errant shot.
You don't know which one was the Secret Service guy shooting?
Correct.
Or it might have been a police guy shooting. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Them taking him down. Yeah, and it all sounded like the same caliber.
Yeah, and how do you?
Yes, you're right. I forget. That's the other point that we should talk about, because I was thinking maybe it was a suppressed rifle, but you have to remember, cameras are designed to reduce loud noises. In general, that's the whole way they work. They filter it down so that it is not loud noises. So if you watch people take videos of gunshots, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah,
it sounds like that pop, pop, pop. I mean, I watch a lot of YouTube firearm stuff because they do some cool shit sometimes, and that's what it sounds like.
Or they're testing new guns.
Yeah, exactly.
Reviewing guns.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what it sounds like. So the what ifs are really interesting. But then you have to look at now, okay, well, he survived. What does that mean? What do I think it means, or what do you think it means?
What do you think it means first? And then we'll ask Matt.
I think it means he wins the election.
That's a possibility.
I think it means that he wins. I don't see any way he loses now. And I think the Democrats are going to just roll over and take it. Matt? I think they're going to take their beating, and they're going to play defense and hope for the next election.
What do you think, Matt?
I mean, that was the immediate reaction of my group or my community, which is admittedly a little bit more left-leaning, but that was just the immediate reaction was, that's it. It's over. That picture of him standing in front of the American flag with blood running down his face, get out of here. That's it. You know what I mean? Like, that is the ultimate propaganda poster. And he didn't cower. He stood up. He said, "Fight!" He acted bravely at the risk of his let's call them knights, the Secret Service.
Well, he also put himself in danger, though, Matt. He put himself in danger too, because he doesn't know if there's another shooter. And he also knows.
I know.
Well, no, they should have. He's the fucking. I mean, he's in charge of them. That's his job, is to be the fucking leader.
Not when it comes to physical safety. They're in charge.
To be complete, it doesn't matter. I think he did the exact right thing. He did that exactly how he should have.
As far as
I'm gonna disagree.
As far as the consequences go, I mean, it's a huge narrative on both sides. Right now, you have Biden kind of subtly calling out that former political violence was the fault, of Trump's camp, and then Trump is just gonna make a meal out of this. I mean, they tried to kill me. First they they came after me at the courts, and then they tried to kill me. Like all that stuff, man. It's just going to be messy. And we have, admittedly, both sides asking for the heat to be turned down on the language that's being used back and forth for exactly. And I'm not sure that's going to happen. I mean, we have a little while until the election, but I'm not sure that anything is going to get nicer.
Well,
you know what I mean?
if the Democrats don't turn it down, then it's going to come off looking really stupid. And I think they will underestimate Americans. We have a stubborn streak. All right. And so Americans in general are going to be like, oh, somebody thinks we should shoot that guy? Fuck that. Let's vote for him. Like, there's a lot of that. Like, I keep seeing this election coverage. Yep. I keep seeing this one from Reagan after he got shot. That was during the campaign, I believe, or a little bit before, for his reelection. And he took every state but Minnesota.
Yeah.
Like, if that might be something that I wouldn't shock me. Like, I think maybe it's the diehard liberals are gonna vote, but the regular independents, if they can't bring themselves to vote for Trump, they just won't vote.
Well, and there's one more thing I want to. Anyway, sorry, I was going to divert into another topic.
Well, we'll get back. Hold it. Okay. Remember it.
Yep.
But I do think,
and just to follow up on your point, like acting bravely, Theodore Roosevelt got shot when he was campaigning, and he kept giving his speech, and people praise him for it all day long. You know what I mean? So he's playing into that vibe, and he knew exactly what he was doing, man. He had the presence of mind in the moment to say, stop, wait, give me a moment with my people, raised his hand, said, I'm okay. The roar of the crowd in that moment, oh my God, that was incredible. I'm not praising either side of this. I'm not coming down. I'm just saying
they're chanting
it was an incredibly
USA.
powerful moment.
They're chanting USA.
I can't believe
the crowd
I saw that.
Chanting USA.
Yeah,
fuck
dude.
that. It's over.
Well, I'm not.
After the debate, and then all this, I think it's over.
Well, I'm not sold on that.
But I'm almost always wrong about politics. So you don't want to take my opinion as right, because I'm always right.
So after the debate, I thought it was over, first of all. But
right.
I mean, that it was atrocious. It was just so.
Right.
Not only did Trump have to agree to the rules of the debate, and then the topics and the moderators, and he still did it, and still came out looking pretty well, or at least better than Joe Biden. But then this isn't, and then the Supreme Court ruling, and then this.
Right.
I'm still not sold that it's going to be like a shoe-in of an election. But I mean, what the hell do I know? I don't know anything.
If it's not,
there's
going to be a lot of people who just thinks that they're just going to be convinced that it was all stolen.
I kind of wish Trump just finished his speech.
They would have never allowed that.
I know.
When Teddy got shot, I think it hit his speech, didn't it? Am I remembering that correctly? Like the bullet was slowed because it hit his giant speech in his pocket.
I don't remember.
Right. I believe that story. Yeah. Right. And people still talk about that 110 years later. But Trump. Okay, whatever you say about the guy, I don't think he thought consciously in that moment, Matt. I don't think there was time for that. I think it was just instinct. And his instincts were to, 1, let the people know that he was okay. 2, tell the people who don't want him alive to fuck off. That's kind of what that looked like to me. Fuck off. I'm still here.
Yeah.
Keep fighting. USA. Yeah. That's what he said. And that's political instincts, right? That's just gut. He knows he knew the right thing to do by instinct there. And
he looked legitimately pissed off. He was like,
he did not look scared.
Legitimately
he looked
angry.
mad.
You know
now the
I mean?
picture of him when he's out under the Secret Service bodies, like a few seconds before that, he looked scared. Sure. And that's fair. Somebody just got their head blown off. Should be scared, right?
Of course.
But then as soon as he's told that threat is at least neutralized, it goes to being pissed off. And I think that's okay to show that. And I think the people criticizing him for saying fight should fuck off.
I don't think he's wrong with that.
No, I mean, somebody just tried to kill him. I was just listening to this Lex Friedman podcast. A week ago, he had Ivanka Trump on. I'm serious. I was listening to it yesterday, and I finished it today. And she's nothing like you would think. When you listen to her interview with Lex, she seems just like a genuinely good person. That's Trump's daughter.
Yeah, no. I was gonna ask you to what would I think?
Right.
I didn't listen.
None
to
of those
conversations, so what would I think?
bombastic, none of that bombastic Trumpness.
No, I thought she would
Right.
sound educated and
just
regular and normal.
Yeah. And then you listen to her talk about her mom, because Lex is asking her about how it was to be raised by her parents, because her mom was exceptional.
Yep.
Her dad was Trump. And you hear her talking about that. And then literally later that day, while I was listening to that, later that day, somebody tried to shoot her dad.
Yeah.
That's still somebody's dad. A lot of people's dads and a lot of people's grandpas.
Oh, wow.
Right? He's got a lot of grandkids and kids, and they just tried to shoot him.
Yeah.
Right?
Melania put out a letter today. I don't know if you
I'm
saw
sure
it.
she did.
It was very nice.
So the Free Press, not the Detroit. Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
And we're saying
he.
they, and I think we should be.
No, you're right.
I understand what you mean by that.
He tried to shoot him because we don't know.
Yeah, right.
But I also do know that a lot of people, and this is basically who I mean by they, would have been very happy that he was dead. And that's who I mean by they.
I know what you mean.
I don't want to sound like I think there was some big conspiracy, because I don't think there was, but I also don't know. Yeah. And I think it's foolish to just assume there wasn't a conspiracy, and it's also foolish to assume there was. But when I say they, I mean the people who wanted him dead, and the people who are online doing obituaries to the dude.
Sure.
Yeah. Which is
not history rhymes, though, because that's the same thing with Gabriel Precept. His idol was this dude who failed to kill the freaking governor of Serbia. Okay. And it was like 15 years old when this guy tried to kill the governor of Serbia and then took cyanide and killed himself. And this guy was Gabriel Precept's idol.
Yeah.
And then he did the same thing. And you see this shit online. You're like, okay, well, this is something that now there's a bigger venue to share. But this is something that's always happened. A2, Brutus?
Well, I don't agree with it. I think that's disgusting.
Of course it's disgusting.
I mean, look, I don't really care for a lot of some politicians. Let me just say not a lot of some politicians. But you know what? I wouldn't be happy if, any of them were assassinated, because that's not how our system's supposed to work.
Right. Right.
It doesn't matter what side of the aisle it is.
But so I'm sorry, what was I saying when Matt, when you corrected me for saying they, do you remember what point I was making? Yeah. Oh, right.
Yeah, you're talking about Ivanka Trump.
The Free Press, which is a news site on Substack started by the former New York Times journalist, I'm blanking, Barry Weiss. They had a journalist there who's covered Pennsylvania politics for years. And last night, she wrote a little article, and I'll link it in the description. She wrote a little article discussing what it was like, because she was there. She was 4 feet from Trump when the shots rang out, in front of him, in the audience. Wow. And she said when she meets him, because she met him before, he always remembers her name. He always asks about her grandkids, remembers that she has how many she has and all that stuff. And he goes, yeah, I love my grandkids too. That's what he said 20 minutes before he got shot at. That's a person.
Yeah.
It's easy to remember and get lost in all the nonsense and news and everything, but politicians are still people. That's a person somebody just tried to assassinate. It's just a little perspective. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that somebody thinks that that's the answer.
So you guys live in a... You guys live... Yeah, I agree. You guys live in a more conservative area of the country.
Actually don't. Michigan's kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
We have a Democratic governor the last 2 elections. Michigan kind of bounces back and forth on that.
Yep.
Yeah.
We don't live in the rural area.
Okay.
But I happen to know a lot of conservatives and
a lot of liberals.
And a lot of I probably know a little bit more conservatives than liberals, but nobody in real life that I know was happy that this happened. At least didn't say that to me. Yeah. It's all on Twitter. and TikTok and bullshit like that, right?
Yeah.
The average American, I think, understands that would have been terrible yesterday if that was successful. And it was terrible anyway, because it cost somebody his life, cost a daughter her father, right? That's not nothing. And people saying, well, he caught, that was that Destiny guy. He said, well, he caught a stray at a Trump rally. I don't feel bad for him.
That doesn't make any sense.
Hey, asshole, this is just politics.
Yeah. You're just anybody that says that, I'm going to be honest, they're not actually taking, they're not taking that, they're not taking it into context.
Right.
They're just not.
No, they've lost perspective.
And that's an asshole.
But if you say he's literally Hitler, how could you not be justified to kill him? To think about this, right? And this is the classic ethics argument. You go shoot Hitler before he did anything bad.
Sure.
Wouldn't you be obligated to do that if you could? To save all that human suffering and strife?
You know what? This has been played out in a couple movies.
Yeah, but I don't care about movies.
No. But the logic behind it makes you can't do that.
No. I'm not. It's not whether or not it would work. This is a moral question. It's an ethical question.
Wait a minute.
Would you be morally obligated to kill somebody that you know was truly evil?
Hold on.
Would you be morally obligated?
If not Hitler, maybe it was Goebbels.
There's a good argument that none of those guys would have actually been able to put the people together.
Maybe.
Okay, and it doesn't matter. Hitler was evil. Okay? Is it morally right to shoot an evil person that can't be stopped in any other way? Of course it is. Of course it is. Right? It just is.
But you can't justify that in the chain of history.
No. I'm not looking at history here. This is a philosophy question, not a history question. Philosophically.
Yep.
It's a just cause, right? If you could save that many people, aren't you obligated to do that? If you want to be considered a just person? And then now remember, there's been articles just in the last week, op-eds in big newspapers saying it's okay to compare Trump to Hitler. Trump's terrible. He might end our country. There's been op-eds in major newspapers saying that.
Yeah, but that's not.
And I don't blame the newspapers for publishing that shit, and I don't blame the guy for writing. I blame the person who took the shots. That's who gets the blame here. But the point is, the fucking rhetoric needs to be stopped. Because it has real life consequences.
Yeah, but that's something I wanted to bring up. That flows straight into what I want to bring up. You just nailed you hit the nail right on the head, George. You're blaming the person. Do you see and do you hear any conservatives asking about gun control?
No.
Why?
Stephen King brought that up, though.
Yeah, sure. Stephen King brought it up. Great. Whatever.
Yeah.
Prick. But
yeah.
I mean, but my point is, do you hear any conservatives saying, no, that's it. Guns got to go.
Right.
No.
Well, let's talk about gun control for a minute, because it kind of came up in the context of what we know about this guy. So first of all, again, legally purchased. What I've heard, what I read was that he used a 5.56 AR model that was purchased by his father. Okay, but then the local gun shop owner checked his records and said he never sold anything to that family, but they got it around there somewhere. Whatever, it doesn't matter. So legally purchased. First of all, it doesn't really matter what style. Yeah, he's right. It doesn't really matter that it was an AR rifle. To me, it doesn't, because if I climbed up on that roof, I would have taken a 30-06, which you can just go down and buy at the hunting store. You know what I mean? It's removing assault rifles is not,
and it might have
not
been
going to stop this kind of thing from happening. It's not even a good sniper.
Might have been
rifle.
more
It's not even,
Yep.
300
a bolt action,
mag, you know what I
he
mean?
might have killed Trump. If he had a bolt action, he might have killed Trump.
Like
maybe.
But
according to me, he wasn't a good shot.
That's correct. That's correct.
But also,
bolt action 30-06. So, and let's talk about that, Scott. Yeah, let me go back to his rifle club in school. So the instructor there, by all reports, was a Navy guy, an ex-Navy guy, and he caught the bad vibe on this dude. And when I think about practical gun control, I think about the way that I grew up, which is, I bought my first rifle when I was 12 years old from a classmate, not at my house, but our dads were there. It was a 22. My dad made sure he took me out to the range. He taught me how to shoot it and gun safety, and made sure I read all the books. And there's just a whole process that you go through in a certain environment, in a certain culture, in a certain community, that filters out the wackos. You know what I mean? And that happened here to a certain extent, where the guy said, "You don't belong in this club, son." And what really and largely we have in this country is the ability for anyone just to go out and pick something up like that and then go out there and use it. I think there should be more family involved, and more, you should have to go through more robust instruction with someone competent, and they will to evaluate your character based on that. So I'm all for people having gun rights, but I just know what worked for me as a kid, and it seems like a good filter.
But, I mean, what? Okay, you can put all the checks and balances you want in place, or at least the checks in place. But that doesn't stop somebody. Here's my issue. It doesn't matter if it's a gun or a bow and arrow or a crossbow or a samurai sword. If somebody wants to hurt a car, if somebody wants to hurt somebody, they're going to find a way to do it. It doesn't matter. It's the only thing that's changing is the tool,
the amount of effectiveness, because guns are more effective than a lot of those things you mentioned.
So, yeah, well, maybe. I don't know. I don't think they are.
They are.
I don't know.
There's a reason we use them. They're more effective.
Okay,
they are.
I've
hunted.
I know you've hunted.
They are.
Sure.
They're just more effective than a bow and arrow or a crossbow.
Sure.
They are.
But you're not. Anyway, we're not talking about animals here. We're talking. My point is, if somebody has malicious intent, they're going to find a way to hurt somebody else. It doesn't matter. You can look up mass stabbings in China. That's a huge thing. It doesn't matter what, in London not too long ago, they outlawed baseball bats. But they didn't outlaw 2x4s. They didn't outlaw kitchen knives. I mean, like I said, my point is, if somebody wants to cause if somebody has malicious intent, they're going to find a way.
No, but to what Matt's point is, I think that there is a responsibility there, but I don't think it's on the government.
No,
I think that responsibility falls to the parents. And this is like you said, Matt. My dad bought me my first gun. He ensured that I shot it with somebody who was responsible and taught me how to handle them. Taught me what happens when you shoot one. Okay, the rules of gun safety. And to teach a kid that, you really need to let them shoot a gun.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, they're always going to wonder. Yeah, you could say, don't pick that up, don't touch that. If you ever find one at a friend's house, don't pick it up, don't touch it. That just makes them more curious in a lot of kids, right?
It's the forbidden fruit.
You need this culture that we still have in a lot of places, but necessarily not in all the places. But of you teach kids how to use firearms as the tool that they are, how to respect the danger that they are, and then you also keep them out of reach of kids when it's not the appropriate time for them to have access to them. And you also, if your kid seems like he might be a little bit on edge, fucking take the gun and hide it.
Yeah.
Lock it up in a safe he doesn't know the code for. That's on the parents. We can't possibly know what every person is thinking, and we can't possibly keep every bad actor from getting a gun. It's not possible. They could fucking make one. The internet is now a thing. You could figure out how to make your own gun if you really are determined to have one. It takes community, and it takes paying attention and following through with people and making sure that if you think your 20-year-old son might be on edge, it might be taking the election a little too seriously, get that gun out of his hands and lock it in a safe and hope he cools down. Right? Hope he cools down.
Sure.
But what were we just talking about on the new Hardcore History episode, right? What the guy who killed Philip. What did he say? I think they said he learned from his instructor, maybe it was actually Aristotle. What's the best way to be famous?
Kill somebody famous.
Kill somebody famous. Well, 20-year-olds can crave attention and crave making their mark.
Then notoriety.
We're talking about this guy like he's a whack job.
This
Nobody's
guy's name
ever
is
going to
going down in
forget
history.
this. Not
Wait a
nobody,
minute.
but I mean,
Wait a minute.
people still remember Hinkle,
Do you remember who's that?
the guy that shot Reagan.
I don't know who
He
that
just got out of jail.
Well, I don't know who that is.
Hinckley, thank you.
So
he makes
Hinckley,
music now.
Great. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, but
I didn't know who that was.
you
until
were,
told me.
but you were 4 when it
Yeah.
happened. Your
Yep.
dad knows who it was,
Maybe.
and things are more charged now than they were in '88.
Sure.
You're not going to forget this guy.
Who tried to assassinate Roosevelt?
Yeah, but that was before the media was the media.
That his name should still go down in history.
I don't know. I never heard it. I always only hear the story that he kept giving the speech.
I mean, Burr. You know who Burr is?
Yeah, but that was a duel.
Sure.
And he wasn't a president. Hamilton wasn't president.
I understand.
Yeah. It's interesting, though, right? I mean,
He was a former president,
if he would have succeeded in killing Trump, his name would have been never forgotten,
for sure.
at least in history books. At least in history books, right? You can still go read about who killed, Robert Kennedy. Nobody forgets Oswald,
No,
right?
that's true. I think because Kennedy was so well liked.
No, it's not that. It's because it was earth-shattering.
Mm.
In 1963, that was earth-shattering,
Sure.
right? The way we're in the heart of the Cold War. You don't know if it was Cuba that did it. You don't know any of this. And Kennedy gets his head blown off. I mean, it's just assassinations can rip the fabric of your society apart if it's not stable enough.
Sure.
Like I said, look at World War I. It was already on edge. The one of the guys who was actually trying to keep it from breaking out into a world war was the guy they shot.
Well,
No, I mean, like Franz Ferdinand.
the biggest proponent for freedom for that.
No, Franz Ferdinand was trying to prevent a world war. He said, "We cannot fight Russia. We will lose, and our empire will be gone.
Yep.
We need to give more respect to the Bosnians.
Yep.
We need to give them more say." And the fact is, they shot him because they didn't want to have a bigger say in the Hungarian Austria-Hungary Empire. They wanted their own nation.
Yeah.
That's why the people who shot him is because he was going to give them some liberty, but they wanted to have just to be their own state.
Yeah.
Okay. So he was a progressive, but not progressive enough. That's why they shot him. It's very. Think about what happens in this country if Lincoln didn't get shot. Reconstruction got completely fucked because Lincoln was shot.
Yeah.
The whole thing, Jim Crow might never have happened. Jim Crow might never have happened if Lincoln didn't get shot. Think about that. Like, those things are huge because in the real world, in real life, one man does make a difference quite often. Right? And if Trump would have been much more impactful in his death than he would be alive. Because it might have ripped the country apart.
Well,
and now you hope,
thankfully,
that nobody else tries again, or they at least take it seriously and don't let anybody get close.
Yeah. Well, that's luckily we're not having a different discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, I wouldn't want to see the last thing we would need is like another. Let me just put it this way: if the U.S. went into another civil war, it wouldn't be just the U.S. that's screwed. It'd be everybody else that's screwed. The entire, like,
you're right. It would end up in a world war, civil war. It's an interesting way to think about it, but it probably would be the lefts in the Western world versus the rights in the Western world.
Yeah.
Which is a bananas kind of war. And I don't think we even know what that looks like.
Yeah, but then what happens with Russia and China and Taiwan and Japan?
Right.
And what happens with all these other actors? Like, look at Africa. You know, what happens in other places once, like, shipping lanes are no longer protected by the U.S. Navy?
Well, also, do the parties in these Western countries make deals with China and make deals with Russia to join on their side?
All of a sudden,
the whole thing gets crazy.
Yeah.
Like the American Civil War was a unique civil war because it was divided based on geography.
Yeah.
But most civil wars are not.
And also, there wasn't much interference from outside actors because we weren't big enough or powerful enough at the time for anybody to really care.
Well,
now they would.
Everything's more connected now too.
It's just, but it's like what
Planes,
Ukraine and with Ukraine and Russia, what Ukraine and Russia are experiencing now, where China's funding Russia and we're in the West is funding Ukraine. What do you think would happen here in the U.S. then? I mean, China and Russia would be funding whatever, either leftist or rightist, probably leftist group, not rightist group.
Right.
And then who would be funding the rightist group? But there wouldn't be one.
There would be.
Maybe. Name Europe, maybe.
Well, no, there's right wing. There's
China and Russia.
Sorry, we shouldn't be saying right wing.
I'm just saying
we should be saying populist.
Sure.
Because that's what this is.
Yeah.
That's what this is. Trump is not a conservative. He's not a right wing guy. He never was. He's a populist. The Republican nomination was easier to get.
Yeah.
That's why he ran as a Republican. It was easier to get. It's less controlled than the Democratic nomination. It's much more democratic than the Democratic nomination. That's why Trump ran as a Republican, and that's why he won the nomination, and that's why he won the first election. He's a populist. This is very much the elites versus the regular people.
Yeah.
And so in history, when those wars happen, shit gets real bad.
Which is funny. And Matt, I'm curious about on Matt's perspective of this. I mean, when you think about, conservative or liberal, who do you think, Matt, is the champion of like the working class these days?
Oh, I mean, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying with it, and I can't come down on either side of that because I see bad things about both of them. I don't see a champion of the working class, honestly. I take my politics kind of issue by issue, so I don't just say one thing, the other thing. And I don't have a good figure to put up as the champion of my middle class right now because I honestly am not well informed enough about who is fixing things to make life easier for me and which one is better. You know what I mean? I kind of just write it out and I don't see too much of a change, although I'm sure there are. That sounds like a weak answer, but I just honestly I don't have a good picture in my mind. I know kind of where you're going with this, and I think that if you're on a stage speaking the way Donald Trump speaks to people, then that is your champion if you're a coal miner or if you're an auto manufacturer or if you're something like that. I don't feel that Joe Biden is my champion of anything. I'll tell you that right now. I don't necessarily agree with all of the policies coming.
Tradespeople,
go ahead.
In my experience, think Trump is their champion. Plumbers, flooring guys.
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
I talk to them. They are the most MAGA people ever. That's his bread and butter. And he's taking a lot of union people too. Because he goes to those people and says, the Democrats ignore you. They've ignored you since NAFTA. They've ignored the Rust Belt. They don't care about bringing jobs back here. This is what he said. I don't know if it's true. Listen, politics is all full of shit, right? But this is what he said. And it resonated, and that's why he won Michigan in 2016. And he won Pennsylvania. And he won Wisconsin. Those are states that the unions always go Democrat, and they always go Democrat, and Trump won them.
Yeah.
In the Rust Belt. But I wanted to talk about something else real quick. So that it's an interesting thing because in that interview with Ivanka Trump that Lex Freeman did, she talked about how when she was growing up, she would go, or even when she was older, working real estate jobs, they would be walking sites in where they were doing renovations and stuff, right? And he would stop and ask the regular people, the tradespeople, like, What do you think about this? What do you think about that? And oftentimes take their input. And that's who he speaks to that it resonates with. And so maybe it's not an act. Maybe he's realized that you can tap into the average person and get something valuable out of it instead of being an elite who just looks down on the regular people.
Yeah, well, for sure. I mean, look, having been a blue collar worker, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or being a blue collar worker, if people ask me my opinion on things, especially like if I was working on somebody's machine,
Mm-hmm.
hey, look, I'm not here to make money. I'm here to tell you what you're going to need.
Right.
Or this is the right way to do it. It doesn't matter what somebody else says is the right way because I'm the one that I install hundreds of these a year.
Right.
Trust me, this is the right way to do it.
Well, she gives this example. They were walking through this project and were getting this heating and cooling system for this big building project, and it was going to be a ridiculously huge budget for this heating and cooling system. And they were pretty far down the path to getting that installed. And he stops and he asks one of the local tradesmen, like, what do you think about that? And the guy goes, to be honest, it's super overkill. It's like, yeah, if it gets down to negative 200 degrees, you'll be able to keep this building warm.
Yeah.
But what the hell do you need to do that for? And it ended up saving them a ton of money because they went with something much more reasonable. And it was just something that an architect and an engineer didn't really think about. And so by talking to regular people, he got that information. Now, again, who knows? I don't know the guy. He seems like a narcissist. I don't know. But also, he could just be a traditional New York real estate guy. Maybe they're all like that. I don't know. I'm not.
It's you can't speculate.
I think we should talk about, though, what your Russian wife said when this happened. I think we should at least talk about that. Tell Matt what you told me, what she said. I think it's okay to talk about. I think it's a good perspective to have.
She said it was a government. What did she say?
She said it was faked.
Yeah, it was faked.
She grew up in the Soviet Union, and she was, 11 or 12 when the wall fell?
Yeah.
Not to give you her age, but it's very interesting. And the first reaction I had was, that is a very Russian thing to think.
Sure. But nobody tried to assassinate Stalin.
Right. Because he didn't need to. He had total power.
Sure.
But if it got him more leverage, he would have faked an assassination.
Maybe.
Right? Putin would. Like, these guys, the difference is there's no way you're faking this. The bullet grazed his face. Nobody's dumb enough to think they can pull off a fake. Let somebody shoot a live bullet and expect them to only hit their ear. Nobody's dumb enough to try that.
Like I said, now I would say that would be suspicious if there were if nobody else got hurt, and it was, not to sound insensitive, okay, right. But the trajectory of the bullet, it just seemed like to me it was coming from the left, going to the right. Listen, nobody was over to the right.
Nobody's faking live ammo.
No, I understand. I mean,
nobody's faking that. It's just not the way they would do it. They would go Jussie Smollett. This thing happened to me in the middle of the night. It would be easier to fake an attempt than to do it in the middle of a rally surrounded by all these witnesses. It just would be the worst time to try to actually fake it. But I think it's important that we talk about this because there are a lot of people online speculating that he faked this to give himself the election. Nobody just completely doesn't understand how guns work.
There's no
way in hell.
Balls of steel. If that's that's no not even possible.
No, it's not. No, there's no way in hell you would fake live rounds shot at you and it get grazed in the ear. So there's better ways to fake an assassination.
My rebuttal to my wife was, I said something similar, and she goes, it could have been a rubber bullet.
She doesn't understand bullets.
That's just what she said.
That's the point, right? A rubber bullet shot that far from a gun that would still kill him.
Yeah.
Like if it was fast enough to make it that far, it would have to come from a high-powered rifle, and it would have killed him.
But the intention's not to actually kill him; it's to.
But it would have
graze him.
But it would, But there's no way you would take that risk. And I understand because again, this is why it's important to talk about because people who don't understand rifles and trajectories and bullets and things like that, and have never shot anything, don't understand that you can't just fake that, right? You can't just fake that. It would be way too likely he would actually get killed. So if you are Trump, you love you some Trump. Trump loves himself. There's no effing way
He would
he's
let
be like, all right, here's a plan. This will guarantee me my reelection. I'm already up 20 points, but this will guarantee my reelection. Let's get a really good trained 20-year-old that looks weird as shit and have him take shots at me in the middle of a rally and just graze my ear so I'll look like a badass. No fucking way.
No, you're right. I'm not saying you're wrong.
If you were going to fake that, you wouldn't do it in a rally. You do it when you're walking somewhere, right? So you could actually control all the variables,
Yeah.
right? You would never
I don't know.
fake
You
it
don't want to
there.
be moving.
Right. But you would like stop for a second and then a shot would go by
Yeah.
and they would never have found the guy.
And
they would never find the guy.
And not 3 shots.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So people who think that this is faked either think the video is faked, which there's so many witnesses that it would all have already come out that it was faked.
Yeah.
This is America. We don't have that rigid of a control by the media. We would already know.
Oh, no. The media would be the first people to say it was fake.
Right.
Especially in this case.
Right. It's not possible or logical that this would be some kind of staged coup to make sure he wins the election.
I just want to understand. I kind of want to. As details come out, I kind of want to understand the 3 shots, the 4 shots, and then the 1 shot.
There'll be some breakdowns
because
just gotta wait.
It was like over a 10-second period.
I don't think it was 10 seconds. I think their videos are slowed down. I think that was much faster than you think.
Matt, do you agree? I mean, it was pretty. I thought it was like over 10 seconds. You heard 3 shots.
It seemed to happen pretty quick, and just watching Trump on stage. I mean, that's real time video, and he wasn't moving slowly or anything. So, it did. It was closer to 10 seconds, I'd say. On the day of, I thought I counted about 7, and then that might have been, including the shot.
You think it was only 1 shot by the Secret Service
that
too?
took him out?
Right. They might have put a double tap. You don't know that either, right?
The last there was only 1 shot at the end,
that's a good
and
point,
it was
right.
it was 3, 4, and then just 1, and the 1 came at like the 10-second mark,
right?
Ish. I just by watching the video, I watched it probably 4.
There'll be some real.
There's going to be robust breakdowns of this, and night of, I stayed up very late that night, like Google Maps, checking weather bug for it was blowing southwest in Butler that night, that time of day. I was working all this out. They hadn't released where the shooter was at yet, so I tried to I was looking at that eyewitness dude. He had the 2 buildings in the background with the red roofs. So I was trying to place that. And then, I was working all this out, man. And then they came out with the new, I should have just waited. They came out with the stuff today and it kind of changed my idea. But it's very interesting to see the trajectories and stuff and where the snipers are at and then where he was shooting from. It was very close, and then the added detail of the cop chasing him up onto the roof, which distracted him, is the clincher. I mean, that's what it's all about right there.
What would you do if you're that cop in that situation? Would you just back down? Would you shout? Would you try to jump on the guy?
So the statement was that he was in a position where he could not effectively use.
But
his
also,
weapon.
This guy's got a high-powered rifle pointing at a group of civilians, and I don't know what I would do. And I don't judge the cop there. I'm not going to say it was right or wrong. It was very human to just back down, I guess. But maybe
the cop doesn't want to get shot either.
But also, he's a cop. Also, he signed up. He presumably has a bulletproof vest on. He has a bulletproof vest on, presumably. He might have even had the helmet. We don't know. But, why was he going up there to check that building out? Was it because the people said something? Then why wasn't his gun drawn? We don't have enough.
Yeah, right.
Well, but if you think there's somebody up there with a gun, you're not going up over that roof without your gun drawn. So must have been he was just like, oh, these crazy fuckers. Yeah. They just think they saw somebody. I'll just go check real quick. But I don't know. And we don't know, and we won't have all these facts for a long time.
Sure.
But what we probably will never know is why this guy did it. And everybody's going to make assumptions about why this guy did it.
I think the lack of a clear motivation is going to be one of the most dangerous things about this entire incident, because it will allow for so much speculation, and in this case,
Well,
speculation
I
could be
think we
weaponized.
can rule out one thing. I don't think this person was conservative or going to vote for Trump.
Right. And that's the thing they keep bringing up now, though, is that he registered to vote Republican. But if I'm not wrong, Pennsylvania is a closed primary. So he might have voted, he might have registered to vote Republican just so that he could influence the election. A lot of Democrats were doing that to try to influence who the nominees would be, to make sure they got people that they thought they could beat. So who knows? You don't know. Right? You don't know what his motivations were. But we do know somebody tried to kill the candidate who's leading in the polls.
Yeah.
And that's not good. No,
He
he
didn't
did
shoot
not.
Biden.
And it's just, thank God he missed, just for our country's sake.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can make it through November.
Yeah.
Or even January with any more fucking violence and stupid people doing stupid things. People need to remember that if Trump wins the election, that does not change the fact that there is a constitution that will be followed. He will not be allowed to become a king or a dictator. That is just not what would happen. There is no evidence for that. It's also not likely.
Well, let me put it
or
this
even
way.
possible.
Let me put it this way. Even if in the eventuality that did happen, I don't think anybody would even back him anymore.
That's the point.
There'd be no way. Like nobody's going to put up with that shit.
No.
Doesn't matter if you're conservative, liberal, Republican, progressive. Nobody's going to put up with that.
No. It's silly to even pretend like that's something he would have the ability to pull off.
Yeah.
Now, you want to talk about January 6th, you want to talk about all that? Sure. There was a lot going into that because the Democrats did a lot of fucking stupid shit too. Trump was dumb, and he got played in January 6th, and that was stupid on his part, right? All of that was stupid. But the Democrats did not go out of their way to make sure that this didn't seem like they were cheating. Okay? It sure seemed like they were cheating. And I don't think they were, but they sure made it look like they were. There's a lot of shady stuff that was happening because of COVID.
Yeah.
And everybody just assumes that it was on the up and up. Who the hell knows? But if you are the president and you honestly think that they cheated to steal an election, then you're not being undemocratic or un-American to say, hey, wait a minute, I think they cheated. So that's not like he was trying to make himself king then. That's not what that is. And it's not what that was. Was it stupid on his part? Yes. He got outplayed. The Democrats are much better at politics than Trump is in general.
Well, for sure.
But
he's not a politician.
But they're about to lose.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see in November.
It's all interesting. All right, Matt, anything you want to say before we end?
I think we covered everything I wanted to talk about. This is just a hell of a day, and I'm glad we could kind of talk through some stuff and bounce perspectives back and forth, kind of work through it together. We have something on the record now. I love my country. I know you guys do too, and I just am grateful for the kind of conversations that bring together people of even slightly opposing viewpoints. I think it's so very important nowadays. I think we're at a turning point, either one way or the other. Either this does start to die, get tamped down a little bit, or going to get worse. And I think that this conversation is the best thing we can possibly provide our society. And so I'm grateful for every opportunity to do so. Thank you, gentlemen.
You said that really well.
Yep.
You said that really well. You summed up things that I was thinking and I wasn't sure how to say. Thank you for that. Thank you for thinking to do this. I think it was a good idea as well.
And thank you for all of our 12 listeners that listen regularly.
And please join the Hardcore History discussion Discord. And we'd like to talk about this more because the only way to get through this is to have rational discourse, talk through issues. And you're right, Matt, this was useful. And I hope people who listen also find it useful or watch. And America's not perfect. No place is perfect. But our system of government is much more robust than one person can destroy.
And it's the best damn system there is.
It is. And it's flawed, but there's no perfect system. But it'd take a lot more than one person, Biden, Trump, whoever, to ruin America. And the only way it really gets ruined is if people stop giving a shit.
Yep.
So keep giving a shit, but also do it in ways where we have real discourse and real discussions and not rhetoric. Cut the rhetoric out. There's no reason to call the person who disagrees with you your enemy. We don't live in a place where that's the case, and we're lucky. We're lucky.
Or Hitler.
Right. Exactly. But we're lucky we don't live somewhere where the person that disagrees with us is pointing guns at us. Let's keep it that way.
Yeah.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Have a good night.